Hello, everyone. My name is Molly Halsey, and I'm the event specialist here at Enterprise DB. I will be your host today for our webinar, Optimizing Performance and Security with Platform Native Packaging. I'm joined today by Mark Linster, EDB's SVP of Product Development, Bruce Momjian, co-founder of the Postgres Global Development Group and Database Architect at EDB, and Devram Gunduz, EDB's Principal Systems Engineer at EDB. Before we get started today, I have a little announcement. For this year's EDB's annual conference, Postgres Vision, it will be taking place completely virtually online. The conference will be held June 23rd and 24th. Registration is free, so anyone can attend and see any of our sessions, our keynotes, and registration will be opening soon. When it is open, we will announce that as well. To get right into our housekeeping items, this presentation is being recorded. We will be sharing the recording along with the slides after the broadcast. The lines are currently muted. If you have a question, please feel free to submit it in the question panel. Today's session is scheduled for 45 minutes. We expect the presentation to last most of our time today, and we will allot any extra time for as many questions as possible. So coming up in our webinar series, I'm going to give this over to Mark.
Sure. So this, as Molly said, is part of a series of webinars that we do every 2 weeks. They're all available online. So, you know, last or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how to use PostgreSQL.conf to tune Postgres. And today, Devram is going to talk to us about optimizing performance and security with platform native packaging. In 2 weeks, Bruce will give a presentation about how to use the window functions in Postgres, which, you know, if you're a developer, if you're anybody doing analytics in Postgres, that's a great presentation. I've heard it a few times, absolutely worth looking at. And then end of the month, we'll look at our favorite Postgres books. And, you know, as always, if there are topics that you would like us to address, please put them into the Q&A dialogue, so we can add it to the list of things that we'll cover. So Molly, back to you.
Yes, so before we dive in, we have a quick poll for everyone today. I am launching it now. So the question is, what is your source of Postgres today? Your options are Red Hat distribution packages, community packages, EDB packages, homebrew, or one-click installers. I'm going to give everyone a little bit of time to answer. We've already had almost 50% of the audience voted. We're about to hit 60%. You guys are getting so fast at this. I'm going to give everyone a little bit more time, another 5 seconds before we reveal the results. 75% of the audience has voted. All right, I'm going to show the results.
That's very interesting and very much in line with what we're seeing in our statistics, that you know, Windows does count for about 5% of the traffic that we're seeing. A lot of Linux packaging, Red Hat being the leading packager in what we see in our support statistics. So this aligns very much with what we're seeing. Yeah, we're seeing very little Mac OS usage. We see some one-click installers for Mac, but very little with homebrew. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we're going to hand it over to Devram now.
Thanks, Molly. Hi, everyone. Let me first introduce myself. I started using Red Hat around 1996. Actually, unlike the many other people, I started using on desktop first and then switched to server. And then I started using Postgres in 1998 and started building the Postgres RPMs in 2002. Actually, that was for myself only because I needed some packages that wasn't available for the Linux distribution that I was using. And then I took over the project like 2 years later. At the same year, I started the Planet Postgres project. It was a completely separate project, and then it got merged to the PostgreSQL.org infrastructure, which is awesome. Nowadays, I'm responsible for the Postgres YAM and zip repos. So if you are installing Postgres for Red Hat, CentOS, Fedora, SUSE, and Oracle Linux, I'm maintaining those packages. I joined Enterprise DB at 2011, so it's been 9 great years. Thank you. And then, if like after I joined, I started designing the EDB RPM and then Ubuntu and Debian repos. I'm a Postgres major contributor, and I live in London. So we have 4 major items for today. I'm going to start with the life before native packaging, like it was a long time ago. And then I'm going to describe what we mean by native packaging. And then after that, I'm going to speak about the benefits of native packaging. And then finally, I'm going to give you some information about EDB Postgres and the community Postgres native package repos. So life before native packaging was it was a very long time ago, because we were compiling from source code. We have installers. So there were lots of issues with compiling from the source code, because when you are compiling something from source code, you should probably install some compilers on the database server if you are not transferring the binaries from somewhere else. So that brings in some security issues, because if someone just logs into the machine, they can compile a random code and then attack to somewhere else. So that's a potential security issue. And then there are some also maintenance issues as well, because every time you have to update your database instance or something else, whatever, by manually actually downloading the tarball, rebuilding again, etc. So the maintenance was quite horrible those days. And then we had one-click installers for lots of things. If you're using, say, LAMP stack in 1990s or like in the first few years of 2000s, we had lots of security issues, because the one-click installer means we need to have one common library for all platforms. And so it means the same library must work for Red Hat 6, for example, nowadays, or Red Hat 8 at the same time, and also SLES or Ubuntu and Debian. So we have to find the lowest common denominator, which is not the ideal way, which is one of the things that we are going to talk during this session. And then also there are some performance issues because of these libraries and old libraries and etc. Because we try to find the lowest common denominator. It means we cannot benefit from the latest developments for the same package. So eventually, of course, people started switching to the native packaging. So actually,
Devin, the thing that really got me about those two options is that the operating system doesn't really know what you're doing here, right? You're sort of parachuting either a compiled binary or a one-click installer into a dedicated directory. So your PHP doesn't know, your Python doesn't know, your Perl doesn't know, potentially your Apache server doesn't know, so all your update service doesn't know. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of stuff. If you're just creating a database server that's just going to be a database server, that might be fine. But if you're wanting to do any kind of integration with anything else around the operating system, this is like these two options are like an island, and that's okay. Sometimes that's good, but a lot of times it's just extra headache, as you're saying, for people who have to manage now an operating system and its own updates and then Postgres, which has its own cocoon of stuff that you have to manage. It's simple, but in terms of there's a whole bunch of stuff that you really want the operating system to help you with, and it's just not there.
Thanks, Bruce. That's right. Because, for example, yes, Apache, if you don't follow the Apache mailing lists, you may miss an important security update. Then you're vulnerable, right? So yeah, there were lots of issues with and security, which is security I'm going to cover in during the presentation. But yeah, that's right. Thank you. And also the like combining everything into one single thing was a great problem. Actually, that was one of the reasons why I switched to Postgres, because my SQL didn't work when I first started using a database, but Postgres worked. Thanks. So anyway,
Even like something as simple as booting, starting the server when you boot, right? For
right,
both of those, it's kind of, it works, but it's,
right. That's right. That's right. So so what's native packaging actually? When we are talking about native packaging, of course there are lots of packaging options out there, but the most popular ones are the RPMs and the Debian packages. So as I told you, there are lots of options out there. So it's basically bundling the binaries, libraries, and documentation and etc. for easy installation. So we are talking about pre-compiled binaries or pre-compiled libraries, even pre-compiled documentation for PDFs, for example, which we also distribute with the Postgres packages. So, and for easy installation is another thing. Okay, we first compile, so you don't have to compile, and we present those packages for you so that you can install them in an easier way and in a maintainable way. So again, it's pre-compiled, and unlike the one-click installers, it's built for that operating system. So when we are talking about an RPM for Red Hat 6 or Ubuntu package for Ubuntu 18 or something, it means we are talking about a binary which is optimized for that specific operating system, which brings in lots of advantages and also the security advantages as well, which I'm going to talk later on. And one of the advantages was with the native packaging was, or is, let's say, it's an easily delivered software. So once you install the operating system, and if you have some internet access or whatever, then you can install or update a package quite easily. That's actually this is one of the points which we are why we are working on native packaging more and more every day. So one of the things as we talked was maintenance, because it uses operating system libraries. As Bruce mentioned, if you are compiling everything from source, okay, well, you need lots of time. That's fine, but then we are using the operating system library. So in case of a security issue, the operating system vendor should be able to handle the security issue, right? For let's say if there's an OpenSSL security issue and if the distribution is still supported, the operating system vendor is already rolling out the updates for you. So you don't have to update your Postgres installation, for example, in this case, just to update on OpenSSL dependency. So you don't need a separate update requirement for each library. Remember, as I told you earlier in the previous slides, when we are talking about the one-click installers, we have common libraries for all platforms. But in this case, we are using the operating system libraries, which is very beneficial for each user. And also, it's easily we can easily compile programs against Enterprise DB Postgres Advanced Server or Commit Postgres, because as also Bruce mentioned, you can better link with libpq because everything is under the well-known directories for the operating system. Even if not, we tell the operating system where to find them, which is the case in both Enterprise DB RPMs and the Postgres RPMs. So you don't have to, so users don't have to create lots of magic just to compile something or their own programs against Postgres. Another thing is the integration with the operating system and other third-party tools, because when you are using the native packaging, now we are talking about using the operating system package management tools. I'm talking about YUM for Red Hat 6 and 7, DNF for Red Hat 8, or DNF for Fedora, or zip for SLES, or APT for Debian and Ubuntu. So you don't have to get something else from somewhere else, because as long as the repo is defined or installed in the operating system, then the operating system package management tools are going to use the repo, install or update their systems, and etc. And then, which means another benefit is one monitoring platform for all the packages. So if you are using Postgres with one-click installers, or web server Apache with one-click installers, you would also have to create a monitoring infrastructure to check the updates. In this case, if you are checking the YAM or APT or zip repos, that's fine. As long as there's an update, you will be informed, which is actually which saves great time when dealing with your servers. Another thing which is also quite important is integration with Puppet, Chef, Satellite, Ansible, and other tools in here, because they also know the status in the operating system. So you can just use the regular Puppet, Chef, and Satellite, and also in the Spacewalk maybe. And so you can just download the RPMs or use our RPMs or Debian packages in this case, and just integrate with the operating system. Finally, when it comes to integration, and if you are using Red Hat or Fedora, the SC Linux is enabled by default, and that might cause a problem when you're compiling from source, because we are talking about installing something to the non-default places. But in the Postgres RPMs and in the advanced server RPMs, we create some Linux policies. You can create your own policies based on the installations that you want, installation type that you want, and create the easily and feasible Linux policies for the operating system, so that you can manage your database quite easily.
So, Devram, does this also mean that things like FIPS 140 compliance, etc., will become much easier because you're using the underlying, in this case, Red Hat SSL libraries? They already have the check. You need to enable them, but the moment you do that, you're home free. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct, Mark. 100% correct. 100% correct. So let's talk about the ease of updates. Okay, we can install them quite easily, right? Because when you install, say, yum install the software name, it's there as long as you have the repo. So this also has the benefit of updating your database server as well. So when you use dnf yum apt zipper to update the operating system, you can also update the Postgres instances as well. So it's easier than ever. So you can just keep up to date with the upstream, not just for Postgres, for the other software that we also support for advanced server and the community Postgres. One of the major topics in this talk is performance. So, and which is quite important, because we are now talking about compiling Postgres, I mean pre-compiled binaries and libraries in this case, and we use those compilers which are supplied by the operating system. Also, we are using the operating system supplied libc, glibc, which means actually we are using everything from the operating system, which has a great performance because they have been optimized for that specific operating system. So this improves the performance on the operating system and the database as well. So what about security? Actually, I want to spend some time in security part, because this is quite important, and actually we must evaluate this from lots of points. So I mean, what do you mean by security? Because we are not talking about the actual keyword, the security keyword in here, which means we are not preventing attacks from someone else. Now we are talking about the source. I mean, in this case, RPMs or Debian packages, which are being installed to our operating system. So they must be secure enough. So what do we mean by secure? First, the packagers or the repository managers must make sure that the repos are safe and locked down. So at Enterprise DB and in the community RPMs as well, we make sure that the build machines are completely locked, and no one, I mean, just of course the authorized people can access to those machines. So they are behind firewalls, and we are using some extra security information that I can't tell you right now, but we make sure that those build machines cannot be accessed from outside, which means everything we build can be quite you can reproduce the same build on your machine, which I'm going to mention in the next few slides as well. So this the first part of the security. You can make sure that the packages are safe, are securely installed, and there is no extra code which is hidden inside the database, inside the RPMs. So is it really secure? Well, we sign the packages for the RPMs at least. We sign the packages with a GPG key, which is pre-installed on your operating system when you install the repository RPM. So once you install the repository RPM, which actually defines the download locations for the packages that you want to use, we also install a GPG key. So the YAM or zip or DNF in this case verifies those packages using those GPG keys. So you can make sure that those packages are signed by actually signed by the builder, which actually has that key. So if there's a security issue, if there is an attack or something, so you can easily verify. I mean, you don't have to actually verify, because the package manager is actually going to start complaining about the security issue, and then you won't be able to install the packages. So basically, it's also a problem if we forgot to sign the packages. We don't, but just to give you an idea. So if the package is not signed with the right GPG key, it means there's a problem. So at Enterprise DB and in the community Postgres RPM repos, we make sure that the packages are built with the right way, the secure way, and signed by the people who have the authorization of building those packages. And another point from security is the updating part. Actually, we were talking about ease of update in the previous slides, but in this case, I'm actually talking about applying the patches. Means, if you are familiar with the Postgres world, we have the patches we have the patches in cumulative way. So assuming that you are using 11.3, you can update to 11.7 quite easily, and we just directly from 11.3 to 11.7, because that upgrade will also include all the patches between 0.3 and 0.7. Also, if there's a Postgres security issue, yeah, there may be some security issues like every other software. That's again, once we finish building our packages with the security issues fixed, just run the YAM update, DNF update, APT update command, and apply those patches on the operating system in minutes, maybe in seconds. So that helps you to apply the security patches to the operating system quite easily. Again, this is no different than installing the PHP or Apache or the other packages. As I told you, I want to spend some more time about the security thing, because it's quite important. We also provide, I mean, not in terms of the community RPMs, community repo actually provide the source RPMs. Because it means we have the source code ready for you. So if you want to rebuild the same package, you can just build the source RPM on your machine. It is not different than compiling everything on your own machine, but at least you can make sure that the binaries are the same. So if you want to check the security, you can just download the source RPMs from postgresql.org, I mean yam.postgresql.org, and try rebuilding the machine, rebuilding the RPM on your server, and make sure that everything is the same. So you can also make sure that we don't inject anything to the RPM. So it means it also gives you an ease of customization, because in currently, since we are working on like all the user base for the native packaging, we try to add lots of options to the RPMs or Debian packages. However, in your case, you may want to compile Postgres with another option, another parameter which is not standard by default, or which is not enabled by default, or which is disabled by default, whatever. So you can just download the source RPM, open the spec file, change those parameters. Even you can add some on your own patches, which I know that there are some people out there who are already doing this. You can add your own patches for your installation and just build your RPM. So it gives you an extra security level if you want to compare the installation on your machine and give it with the packages that we provide from the repo. So as long as we sign the packages, which we do, we can confirm that there is no extra code, no malicious code, nothing, no security issues with your RPMs or Debian packages. So you can easily install those packages. So I want to talk about the EDB Postgres repos in the first place. They are available via the EDB portal since 2012. So we first started with the Red Hat and CentOS RPMs, and they are at yum.enterprisedb.com. And then I think 2 years ago, we started working on the /12 RPMs. They are located in zip.enterprisedb.com. And then we also provide the Debian and Ubuntu packages for apt.enterprisedb.com. So this is actually the timeline that we started supporting native packaging. And since I think last year, we stopped. Yeah, since last year, we also stopped building one-click installers on Linux. So if you want to install advanced server on your box, we don't provide the one-click installers anymore. Because of the reasons that we outlined so far, like security issues, maintenance issues, and etc. Now you should install. You can install Postgres version 12 and Enterprise DB version 12 by using the RPMs or the Debian packages. So this is more or less the same with the community and native packaging.
Let's not just jump over. I mean, we also provide the IBM packages. So IBM. Linux on Power, right, is also supported through native packages. So we do that. And I mean, for Windows and Mac, we still provide the one-click installers because that's just the way things work on Windows and Mac. But by far, the majority of our customers today, especially in production, use the native packages for exactly the reasons that that Devrim has put forward, because they are more effective, easier to manage, and from a security management perspective, it's just a lot easier.
Yeah. Thanks Mark for reminding this. Right, we also support the PP6 for little endian RPMs for all the Postgres and Enterprise DB releases up to I think 9.6 or so, which is great, and thank you for reminding me this, Mark. So I want to give you a quick information about the community Postgres native package repos. We have yum.postgresql.org for Red Hat, CentOS, and Fedora. For Fedora, we only support the last 2 releases because that are the releases supported by the upstream. So currently we have Fedora 30 and 31 right now. For Ubuntu and Debian, we have apt.postgresql.org. Actually, both these repos actually now have an archive repo, which you can find all the releases, I think back to 9 point, maybe 8 point something. So you can even find all the releases if you need something else. So one of the benefits of using the community repos as compared to the Red Hat packages or distribution Red Hat packages, I mean, let's say for Red Hat and CentOS and Fedora, the community RPMs gives you an option to install multiple versions in parallel. So you can install 9.5 and version 13, even the development version in parallel. You can start testing. You can run them at the same time with in separate ports, which means you can even test your installation or your database or your application by just running everything, installing everything in parallel. And also, unlike the operating system packages, the community repo provides you a lot of extensions that you can also use for your installation. This is more or less the same for Sys12. I want to just remind you one more thing about the Enterprise DB repos. We also support some extensions with Enterprise DB Postgres repos. They are fully supported by Enterprise DB. You can just download them and use them, etc. Not just the extensions, we also provide packages for software like PG admin as well. So we are not just talking about the database server at Enterprise DB, we're also talking about the extensions plus the monitoring software or management software for Postgres, which is called pgadmin, and also packages like PAM, BART, and EFM are also available with all of those repositories at Enterprise DB.
All
So
right.
I'm actually down for today, and if you have any questions, please feel to ask.
Great. Thank you so much, Devram. Before we move on to the next portion of our presentation, I have one quick poll I'm going to launch out to everyone right now on a scale of 1 to 10. How likely are you to recommend this webinar? I'm going to give everyone a little bit of time to answer. Per usual, everyone is answering very fast. Within the first 15 seconds, we've already had 50% of the audience vote. Great. I'm going to give it another 5 seconds before I close out the poll. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to take back power of the screen. All righty. Mark, on to you.
So we're just going to take a few minutes, promise a few minutes only before we get into the Q&A, just to talk about, who Enterprise DB is and, share some of the excitement that Devram has brought forth in what we've been able to do in the Postgres community. So first thing is, when you look at Enterprise DB today, one of the key elements is that we are a major contributor to the Postgres project, and we're also very active on the commercial side. Obviously, we work with lots of large customers, and we work with consultancies like Gartner, for example. So Gartner now for 7 years has recognized EDB Postgres, which is, largely PostgreSQL, in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and has strongly recommended Postgres as a platform that enterprises can use because the completeness of vision is there largely, and certainly the ability to execute for enterprises. So if you look back at 7 years of the Gartner Magic Quadrant, Enterprise DB and Postgres have been in there for 7 years. And the most interesting part is the part that's not there, meaning the companies that, or the missing open source relational database management systems. If you go back quite a few years, you will find other open source relational management database systems in there, and they're missing today. I'm not going to say anything negative about them, but if you want to have access to the report and all the reasoning, just drop us a note, put it into the Q&A, and Molly will make sure that you get access to that report. So let's move forward. Okay, so as I said, we've been very active on the commercial side. We've been around since 2004, and today we're proud that over 100 Fortune 500 companies work with Enterprise DB and work with us to support their Postgres in their environment. Let's move forward. Okay, so but we're also very active on the open source side, as you know. Devram is a big name in the community. If you use any of the native packages or most of the native packages, he's very involved in making it happen for EDB Postgres and for PostgreSQL. But then also Bruce, who's been shepherding the project and pushing it forward for the last I think over 20 years now. Dave Page, Robert Haas, Amit Kapila, all names that if you're active in Postgres, you will have heard about. But we're also active in adjacent projects. For example, Akshay Joshi and Ashish Vashi and also Dave Page are really the drivers of PG admin. So we're active on the commercial side with customers and consultancies like Gartner, but we're also very, very involved on the open source side. Let's move forward. Okay, and then we pride ourselves to deliver a complete solution. Devram has already touched on this a good bit. It's the database. Obviously, Postgres is at the heart of what we do. Everything that we do rotates around Postgres, but then lots of tools to manage Postgres, to integrate Postgres, to replicate data from Oracle to Postgres, to migrate to Postgres, to achieve Oracle compatibility, and then services, and support, which is probably the number one thing that our customers value, to make sure that they have a 24/7 commercial grade support for the best open source based relational database out there. Let's go forward. And if anybody has any needs to help for advice or support or DBA services, please get in touch. Okay, so now let's go to the questions. Molly?
Yes. So one of the first questions we got today was, are these packages always up to date and aligned with Postgres, SQL, and EDB Postgres releases?
Right, they are. When the PostgreSQL.org releases a new set of tarballs, they are first sent to the packagers, and then packagers build the packages. So, and then they start syncing to the repos along with the actual sync time, where all the other tarballs are released and all the announcements are made. This is the same for Enterprise DB as well. When Enterprise DB announces their new release, we also release our RPMs and our Debian packages or Ubuntu packages at the same time.
All right, great. Another question we got was, can you install different patch levels of the same major version in parallel?
The answer is no, because the RPMs are not relocatable, but that is not impossible. But it's not a feature that we enable by default. But it's not impossible. But you have to make sure, you have to do some magic, relocation magic to achieve this.
Let me just say also, as the guy in charge of support, don't do it.
Yes.
Devram knows how to do it. Bruce knows how to do it. There's probably a bunch of other people around the world who would know how to pull it off and make it work. We would highly recommend not to do that, just because the RPMs are not relocatable.
Great. Another question we had come in was, can we use satellite/spacewalk for cloning the repositories?
Yes, you can. It's easily doable for both Enterprise DB and community repos.
Great. Moving right along, another question we had was, is it wise/needed to relink Postgres after an OS upgrade with a new kernel?
For kernel, no, because we don't depend on kernel. But for some other libraries, yes. So that's one of the reasons that you may need to also update the operating system packages if you want to use the latest packages of both advanced server and community RPMs. Like, for example, if you want to use the SSL library, I think you should update to at least 7.4 or 7.5, because that's the minor version that Red Hat broke kind of compatibility in the past. So yeah, the answer is yes.
All right, we have time for one more question, and the question is, are RPMs relocatable?
No, that was the question that just Mark answered and I answered actually. They are not relocatable. It is not impossible, but it's doable, but it's not relocatable per packaging guidelines.
All right, great. So Thank you everyone for joining us today for our webinar. This is all the time that we have. We will be sharing this recording along with the slides with you as soon as possible, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.